Well, Cayo's been nerfed again. Time to do the math on the Kosatka and see if it's still worth it. My name's Dan, and I'm an old grumpy gamer. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. This is one of the biggest updates GTA Online had seen in a while, and there's a lot to take in. So we'll break this down into chapters with timestamps in the description below. We'll be going through why you'd want a Kosatka, the recent nerfs, purchasing options, earning an ROI, unlocking and purchasing the Kosatka, sporting the Kosatka, we'll do a submarine tour, traveling, periscope and homing missiles, guided missiles, we'll look at the Sonar Station, the Avisa, the Sparrow, the Kosatka Services, and finally we'll zip through some pro tips. So first things first, why on earth would you want to buy a Kosatka submarine? Well, there are a few main reasons. Starting with anti-griefing tools. Between the guided missiles and the Toreador, there are some fantastic ways to sort out some of the more annoying trolls in free roam. Quick travel, similar to the yacht, you can pay a modest fee to quick travel around the map, which is fantastic for setup missions or for warping away from Mark II tryhards. Hidden caches. With the Sonar add-on, you can earn an additional 75,000 per day really easily. You've got moonpool vehicles, so you can call in extra lots of personal vehicles through the Kosatka Services menu, which includes a chopper that can spawn right next to you, and of course the Cayo Perico Heist. And this is the biggie. It's one of the better ways to make money in the game at the time of recording if you work with a crew. A team of players can pull over $500,000 per hour with a good draw and a friend, or around 325,000 per hour solo. Yeah, sort of. Oh, and it comes with personal quarters by default, so you can spawn directly onto your submarine, which makes it easier for heist preps and avoiding griefers. So the Cayo Perico Heist, which is the main reason for buying the submarine in GTA, has been nerfed 2 and a bit times since its initial release in December 2020, sort of. First up, the solo cooldown, which was the first to nerf, and that occurred mid-2022, lot long after GTA Plus was launched, with the first round increasing the cooldown for solo heisters from 10 minutes to around 2.5 hours, or 3 in-game days. At the same time, the RNG on the primary and secondary loot was weighted heavily towards reduced payouts for those regularly completing the heist. So that means if you are regularly doing Cayo, your payout would also be significantly reduced. We've got the GTA Plus paywall, so not long after that, and I struggled to find the exact date, but not long after that, the Panther statue, the most valuable loot available in the Cayo heist, was more or less locked behind a GTA Plus paywall. So not only has the best loot draw been made exclusive to those on next-gen consoles, but Rockstar make you pay for the privilege too. And that's why I said sort of before, because it's nerfed for some players, not all. So if you're fortunate enough to own a PlayStation 5 or a current gen Xbox, and self-centered enough and weak enough to feel the need to give Rockstar even more money, then you're still able to get the Panther statue. Tough luck for the rest of us plebs though, and the payout nerf. And in the latest round of tomfoolery, late September 2023, where the actual payouts were nerfed themselves, with the primary loot of Tequila, Ruby Necklace, and Bearer Bonds all receiving a 30% cut to their payout. The safe cash taking up to a 60% cut, and most of the secondary loot, that's the cash, artwork, weed, and coke, all taking a 10% hit. They also reduced the chance of getting coke as a secondary loot, further reducing the potential payout. Oh, and they quadrupled the heist setup fee, taking it from 25,000 per heist to 100,000 per heist. Gold managed to escape the pain, which means that you can still do well if you have a team and get a good draw. No word on the Panther statue yet, but my guess will be no cut to the payout and remaining a GTA Plus exclusive. Fuckers. Glitch fixes. So I should also mention Rockstar have been working diligently to fix any payout glitches too. Things like patching the wall glitches that let solo players get to the gold, replay glitches and whatnot. They're always on that. So it's business as usual, but I thought it worth mentioning. Right, so let's talk budget. To access the main heist, you need to be a VIP, motorcycle club president, or a CEO. Since VIPs no longer have the restrictions they used to, you no longer need to purchase an MC or an office, so that's a win. Given this is a vehicle similar to the MOC or Avenger, we don't have to worry about locations or aesthetics either, just accessories. So we have a base price of $2,200,000 for the Kosatka itself, which comes with parking for a Toreador and an Avisa, snacks, some ammo, that's RPGs, Molotovs, and a handgun, personal quarters, the control center for the heist, and some parking for a Sparrow. So that makes things nice and easy. Next, we have some upgrades, starting with the color. You can have the standard black and red at no additional cost, or one of the other 11 options for an additional $75,000. Next up, you can select your flag. None of these cost extra, so pick the one you identify with most closely and you're good to go. The Sonar Station for $1,200,000 is next. This allows you to track and target other submarines and unlocks the hidden cache hunt, which allows you to earn an additional $75,000 per real-world day. Honestly, unless you're planning on griefing other sub owners or grinding the hidden caches a lot, I wouldn't worry about this one. Next up is the guided missile station at 1.9 mil. This lets you fire a missile from the sub and control it in a similar way to a drone. They have a range of 4,000 meters from your submarine, and these are pretty potent too, so you'll take out most things in one shot. Moving down the list, we have the weapons workshop. This allows you to upgrade Mark II compatible weapons and purchase different types of ammunition if you've unlocked them through the research in your bunker, and only if you've unlocked them through research in your bunker. If you do not have a bunker, this is a complete waste of money, and even then I struggle to justify this because you have a weapons workshop automatically available to you through the freak shop, and you can purchase Mark II ammunition through the gun van or your armorer at the agency if you have one. And finally, the moon pool vehicles, with the Sparrow at $1,815,000, which is a cracking little chopper, fragile but really quick, and able to fire multiple homing rockets at the same time once you've done the upgrades for an additional $240,000. And the Avisa, which is a personal sub. Honestly, this is slow as a wet week and pretty ordinary, especially at 1.5 mil. Personally, I'd forego this one. You're much better off saving a bit more and grabbing a Toreador. So that means your bare minimum starting point is $2,200,000, $240,000 if you feel like purchasing a motorcycle club. But if you can squeak together $4.5 million, you can get the Kosatka, the Sparrow with the homing missiles, and an MC club if you don't have one already. And with the Sparrow, your initial round of preps will be much quicker. The daily fee is less than $152, which is a bit of a change from other complex properties. So given the new payouts, it's probably going to take 3 rounds to pay for the Kosatka itself. Assuming it takes around 5 hours to rail through the story for the first time, and you'll then need to just redo the heist a couple of times at around an hour for subsequent runs, you'll probably hit break even after around 7 hours or so of actual gameplay. But you'll have to wait 2.5 hours between each playthrough, so that will add a bit. You could probably break even on the sub over a weekend. It will take you another 4 or 5 runs to cover upgrades and the Sparrow should you head down that road, so probably another weekend there. Once you've got your iron, you'll be able to get through the preps in around 45 minutes and the heist in 10, with a solo take of between $630,000 and $970,000 depending on the draw with loot. But we do have that ridiculous cooldown, so that means we're at a maximum of $325,000 per hour. Now if you do this with a friend, your cooldown is reduced from 2.5 hours to 10 minutes, and the total payout for the heist is elevated to between $965,000 and $1.435 mil. Split evenly between 2 crew members, that's a maximum of $717,500 per round, or about $700,000 per hour. Again though, maximum, not typical. Don't get me wrong, it's still one of the better moneymakers in the game, and if you can couple it with an agency, you'll be swimming in cash, but it's not quite the moneymaker it was, unlocking and purchasing. So first up, if you haven't already, you'll need to unlock the Cayo Perico Heist, which you can do simply by wandering into the nightclub off to the side of the Diamond Casino and Resort and walking over to the VIP area. You'll get a quick cutscene which has a bit of info in it, so make sure you have 5 minutes to yourself and keep the sound up. Then, once you've got the cash together and know the accessories you're going to grab, head somewhere safe and bring up the internet on your phone. Head to Travel and Transport, then Warstock, Cache and Carry, or you can just search Warstock in the toolbar up the top. Click on the Kosatka up the top, cycle through the add-ons and click the purchase button and then confirm. And once you're done, you can exit the internet by clicking the X on the top right of the screen. Your Kosatka is now available for you to spawn. So head to the interactions menu, that's M on your keyboard, double squares on your Xbox controller or swipe on your PlayStation controller. Toggle down to Services, then Kosatka, then Request Kosatka. The menu will disappear and then sometime over the next 60 seconds you'll see a notification in the top left of your screen saying the sub has surfaced. You'll also see the submarine pop up on your minimap. Now I've used a chopper here so we can get a bird's eye view of the sub. From the top we can see 3 hatches which you can enter the Kosatka from. The forward hatch, the door on the sail, and the aft hatch. If you're in a Sparrow, you can also hover above midship to automatically enter the sub, similar to your agency or CEO's office. And if you're below the water, either swimming in the Avisa mini sub or the Toreador, you can also enter via the moon pool, which is also midship below the Sparrow. For your first time in, though, you'll most likely approach by boat, and if that's the case, just pull up next to the sub, clamber up, and head to the main entry on the sail here. There'll be another quick cutscene and briefing, so sound up, and once you're done, you'll be dropped into the control room. We're presently on the uppermost deck of the submarine in the middle of the boat, and there's a few things you can do here. Reddit user Optimore Writing has done a neat port side diagram which we'll use here too. There's a link to the original in the description below. First, if we head to the helm, you can quick travel around the map, similar to the luxury yacht, or you can manually drive the submarine around the map. Controls will differ depending on your platform, so keep an eye top left of your screen. Off to the left there, through the door, you can find the forward hatch, mess and living quarters, and we'll check those in a moment. Next up, we have the Sonar Station. You can't really do much with this, it's a passive add-on, but if you have it, it will allow you to look for caches in certain watercraft, which we'll get to a bit later in the video. Over to the guided missile station next. Once you sit here, you can fire a single guided missile with a range of 4,000 meters. It's kind of like flying the Pyro in first-person view. Again, we'll go through this a bit later in the vid. Swiveling to the center of the room, we can see a large tactical screen. This is where you launch the Cayo Perico Heist from. Heading aft, and you can see the Periscope, which allows you to launch short-range homing missiles. The ladder to the hatch on the sail, and as we move further aft into the stairwell, you can see the actual helipad. This is where your Sparrow is stored if you've purchased one. While we're here, there's a spot to change into a wetsuit and don scuba gear too. Heading down the stairs, below the helipad, we can see the moon pool. This is where your Avisa is stored if you have one, as well as the Toreador. On the other side of the room, you can find another full set of scuba gear, and beyond that is the engine room and aft hatch. And if you chuck the scuba gear on, you can also walk over to the moon pool doors and exit directly into the water. This is super handy for at least one of the Cayo prep missions, and it's a really neat feature when collecting caches. So from the bottom of the moon pool stairs, if we head forward, we'll find the weapons workshop if you purchased it. And further forward again, the torpedo room and a set of RPGs. You can even pick these up if you're under rank 100, which is kind of sweet. Returning to the main control room and heading forward this time, we end up in the forward stairs, and you can see the forward hatch there, which will pop you out on the bow of the boat. Heading down one flight, and aftertouch lands us in our personal quarters, where we can sleep and where you'll load in if you have the Kosatka set as your spawn point. Just around the corner here, you'll often find an SMG and some ammo too. Moving aft, one more room takes us to the mess hall. You'll often see Pavel, your first officer, having a bite and a quiet drink. You'll also find Molotovs and a cider. And that's it for facilities. You will get lost, but don't worry, eventually you'll muddle your way around and you'll be able to find what you need. That said, if you can familiarize yourself with the layout, it's super handy for at least one of the preps for the Cayo Perico Heist. So next up, let's take a look at the heist. Now, we're not going to work through the individual setups or the heist itself here, that's for another time. However, there are comprehensive guides linked in the description below. We'll just take a look at getting the heist set up. So when you're ready, head to the control room on the top floor. Make sure you've registered as a VIP, MC Club President, or a CEO. Then head to the forward side of the large screen in the middle. You can tell you're in the right spot because the text will be the right way up. Wander up to the console and look for the control prompts top left. Then press the button. You'll do a little shuffle, then be prompted to press another button, again top left. Once you've done that, you'll start your very first setup mission, gathering intel. As I mentioned before, we won't go through the actual missions here, but there are links to guides in the description below. And after you've completed each prep mission, simply return to the control center of the sub, wander up to the screen, and follow the prompts to start the next prep. Still with us? Fantastic. So let's take a look at some of the unique mechanics around the Kosatka Submarine, starting with the helm. Once you sit down, you'll have a couple of options. You can fast travel, similar to the luxury yacht, or the agency concierge. Simply select the fast travel option, then pick where you'd like to go, and note that each time you fast travel takes around 30 seconds and costs $2,000. This is super handy if you want to get closer to a heist prep staging area, want to move the sub into guided missile range of someone, or want to move yourself way out of the way so you will be left alone. The other option you have is to pilot the sub manually. It's slow but very tanky, so it can be handy for preps. While you're piloting the sub, you can fire torpedoes manually, which is great for taking out other subs or clowns in toreadors if you're feeling a bit lucky. Oh, and of course, it's a submarine, so you can dive down a fair way if you really want to be left alone. Let's take a look at the periscope next. If you've been piloting, bring yourself up to the surface level and exit the pilot's seat. Walk to the other side of the heist control panel to this enclosed space. Then use the button prompt, top left, to access the periscope. The controls are a bit of a mix of a sniper rifle for zooming and the homing missile. This is a great way to see what's going on the surface without making yourself too vulnerable, and to get your bearings without having to exit the sub or jump into the helm. The homing missiles will lock onto any surface craft like a boat or a jet ski, or any airborne vehicle that's in range. That's choppers, planes, jetpacks, and most importantly, Mark II oppressors. Again, fantastic for at least one of the Cayo prep missions and really handy for nearby airborne griefers. Next up is one of the more fun features on the submarine, the guided missiles. As the name suggests, the guided missile station lets you launch and pilot missiles with a range of up to 4,000 meters. That's around 2.5 miles. Now, when you fire these off, you need to pay attention. The guided missiles move quickly, like as fast, if not faster than a pyro quickly, and you can only use first person, so they might take a few rounds to get used to. Once you've got your head around piloting them though, you can do some serious damage. These are powerful and take some pretty solid targets in a single go. Note though, there's a 60-second cooldown from the time your guided missile either hits something or runs out of range. While we're over here, let's take a look at the Sonar Station. This is an effect add-on, so we can't actually use it, not like the periscope or the guided missiles. Instead, it allows you to activate an add-on in the relevant submersibles. At the time of recording, I believe you can use this while you're piloting the actual Kosatka, while you're piloting the Avisa, and while you're submerged with the Toreador. If we've missed any, please leave a comment below. While we're on submersibles, the Kraken Avisa. This sub was released with the 1.52 Cayo update and can only be garaged in a Kosatka. It's a standard mini sub, similar to the one we saw in story mode. Honestly, it's slow, not terribly maneuverable, and is not a lot of fun to drive, so I'm not a massive fan. If you're super keen on grinding out caches though, it might be a handy investment as it does allow you to exit the vehicle while submerged and then re-enter. That can be handy for reaching unusual or tight spots around the map, especially around some of the wrecks and caves. Sticking with the submersibles, sort of, is the Toreador. This is based on the old Lambo Mazel concept car from back in the day and is essentially a Mark II Stromberg. It has boosts that can be used on the ground, in the air, and even underwater. This one also comes with unlimited missiles, which is super handy when dealing with griefers, idiots, cops, and other NPCs. Oh, and while it can be garaged in the Kosatka, this car doesn't have to be garaged in the Kosatka. You can keep it anywhere you like. There's one more vehicle that your new submarine can house, and that's an armed chopper, the Sparrow. At the time of recording, this is one of the fastest choppers in the game, topping out at nearly 169 miles an hour, or around 270 k's. You can fit this with either a 50 cal machine gun or homing missiles. For my money, the homing missiles are the way to go. Their tracking is excellent, and there's no reload time, so you can just keep firing one after the other. And you never run out of ammo either. It's brilliant. Just one thing to bear in mind, the Sparrow has the constitution of a paper plane on a rainy day. It is fragile. If you look at this thing the wrong way, it starts smoking. Rough landing, smoking. 2 bullets from a handgun, smoking. Bump into it as you're running around to get into the pilot's seat, believe it or not, smoking. It does not fare well against missiles. That said, if you have the money, it's an absolute must. This helpful piece of kit will halve or even third the time it takes you to do free mode preps for the Cayo Heist. Right, that's the Kosatka covered and the main vehicles it can garage. One more thing and then a couple of quick pro tips. Services. Similar to the MOC, the Avenger and the Yacht, the Kosatka comes with a bunch of additions that can be really handy. To access these, jump into your interaction menu. That's M on your keyboard, hold the double squares on Xbox or swipe on PlayStation. Once that's up, toggle down to Services, then Kosatka. From the first menu, you can do a few things. Firstly, if your submarine has not been called in yet, you can call it in. It will appear at the closest spawn point to your current location and can take up to 60 seconds. Heading down, we can request a vehicle. If you've purchased them, this can either be the Sparrow Heli, which will spawn about 20 feet from your current location, or the Avisa mini sub, which will spawn at the closest shoreline. You can request a dinghy, which is similar to the Avisa. It will just spawn at the closest shoreline. Return options next, which we'll get to in a moment. After that, we can use the next 2 menu items to set who can enter our submarine and to boot people out of our sub. Finally, we can swap out the color of our scuba gear if we've purchased it. Now, let's sneak back up to return options because it's a bit of a gotcha there. The first option is pretty straightforward. This will despawn your submarine. The next one, open water, is for when you accidentally beach your sub, which is surprisingly easy to do. Surfacing your Kosatka is pretty self-explanatory, and the last one spawns your dinghy. Here's the trick one though. Return moonpool vehicles. This one's caught me out a few times because it returns either the Avisa or the Sparrow depending on which ones you have out, but unlike the return personal vehicle option, this one doesn't care if you're presently in the vehicle. So if you're in your chopper and select this option when you're not paying attention, well, dang it. There's also a 2-minute cooldown on calling moonpool vehicles too, so that can get mighty inconvenient during a prep mission, free mode event, or when you're under pressure. Okay, pro tips. So first up, like most other businesses, if you're registered as some sort of manager, that's a CEO, VIP, or an MC president, the game assumes you're actively running a business, and that can leave your other businesses open to raids and attacks. If you're not actively working a business and you're not doing something that expressly requires you to be registered as a CEO, VIP, or president, then you should resign. And our final pro tip, once you've played the storyline through, go and watch some speedrunners. Don't watch them beforehand because of spoilers, but once you've played through the entire questline, go watch them. Watching speedrunners doing the Cayo Perico preps, particularly the older runs before it was optimized, will dramatically improve your game and reduce the turnaround time for getting to the Cayo finale. I cannot stress that enough. Anyway, damn, that was a lot to take in. It certainly was a massive task to put this guide together, so if you found it in any way helpful, please drop a like and a comment below. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you in the next video.